Hello, I'm Matthew Moseley, and I am the principal and CEO of the Ignition Strategy Group. And we've worked with American Rivers for a long time, for over a decade. And I was involved in the 7A campaign with the River District for the Colorado River as the sort of head of the C3 side, if you will, the educational effort. I'm also an author, and in my early morning job, I'm an open water swimmer. Absolutely. To build brand awareness in the particular Western Slope campaign that we did to protect Western water, if you will, we really looked at, and every campaign should look at the unique aspects of the geography, the people, and it's not just like, let me spit out several different tactics across every situation that are going to work for everyone. Because I think you need to look at, we like to use the word during this campaign of the unique topophilia of the place. And so for the Western Slope, we thought within our budget that, every budget, every campaign plan starts with the questions and the resources of time, money, and people. Those are the only three things that we have, and they're very finite. So we want to ask ourselves, how best do we use these limited resources? And so for this campaign, for the 7A campaign, we knew that people drove around a lot. They were a little bit of an older, much more conservative demographic. So we guessed that they read the newspapers quite a bit, listened to radio, and also that they read their mail. And so we thought that, investing a little bit more in mail would be important. And then lastly, what was really surprising was social media, because we had a pretty extensive social media buy in the campaign. And there was some talk if that was really the right thing to do for the Western Slope, because they're older people, they're more conservative. Will they actually be on social media and engage that way? Well, we found tremendous, some of the highest engagements that we've ever seen across any campaigns. And, we'll talk about the messaging in a bit, but, one of the things that, when I mentioned, the tactics too, was that in the mail, we invested pretty heavily in direct mail as well, just because of the geography. We couldn't do grassroots. There wasn't going to be any sort of retail, traditional campaigning. And because we were doing the 501c3 side, the educational piece, one of the things that I argued for very heavily back in the summer when we were crafting the whole campaign, was that we needed to do an initial educational piece that sort of laid it out. That wasn't a political piece. It was very, very factual about what was at stake, what the problem was, and then what the solutions could be, i.e. the ballot measure, right? And so that piece was the first piece we sent out, and we called it Problem Solution. And it was, I'm looking at the spend here now, and it was about a third higher than any of our other spends that we did, because it was the first one before the campaign kicked off. And, that was something that was a strategic decision that we wanted to get out there before there was a quote, an official campaign ballot measure number to say like, hey, there is this big problem here. What's at stake for the Western Slope? And sort of mobilize that opinion and get that momentum starting. Another aspect of the mail and all of our messaging for these tactics was the educational aspect of the River District itself, and that they had a very strong brand going into this, but people liked them, but they didn't really know them. They didn't understand what they did. So part of our job too was bringing a little bit more clarity into how the River District was helping people on the Western Slopes in their daily lives. So yeah, radio, direct mail, social media, print advertising in local papers once a week. And then, we kind of worked with some editorial stuff, but those were our main tactics. So outcomes, are very important in campaigns, and not just the outcome on election day, but did stakeholders feel involved? Did you communicate the right message? Do people feel better about the situation leaving it than they did coming in? Win or lose, I mean, I've seen people that win campaigns and it's a horrible picture. But regardless of that, I think what we did well was setting up the social media aspect, particularly, so that it wasn't just for the campaign itself, but it was an asset that they could use going forward. So, for instance, I think that they had about 2,500 or 3,000 person email list going in, a couple thousand followers on Facebook. I know we at least doubled the email list and then maybe tripled their social media following. But we also, through that whole process, our social media firm that we use, 4 Degrees, Zach Knaus, he was capturing IP addresses of everybody that was engaging with the content, which was was a large number. So, walking away from the campaign, the River District comes away with a tremendous asset that they can communicate with about policy issues now. That, let's say they have an issue at the state legislature, they can say, okay, we need to activate this network again, who we know for the most part, support us. So that was a good takeaway, like of how you can do things it's not just all about the vote. It's about the entire moving the needle of everything. The vote